Alright, so I actually decided I'm going to work on the trigger first. I haven't had the stock come in yet, so I might as well get that out of the way while I have the action out. So I went by the hardware store yesterday and I picked up some 1024 machine screws and a small spring here. That's the packaging for it. I think it was like $1.50 for both of those, and you could get a lot of triggers done out of one of those springs, one of those screws. So what I'm going to do, what I did is the yellow like paint sealer Loctite stuff that they use to seal the screw in those threads, I chipped that off, and when I had the trigger out last time, I unthreaded the spring just to make sure the screw would thread in there. So what you need to do is to take the trigger assembly here out, take the spring out, cut a piece of the screw and thread it in there, and then thread the new spring over the top of that and cut the links until it's the right poundage for you. So I'm going to go through that. I'm not going to do any of the major disassembly stuff, but some tips I picked up that are really handy I'll show you. So here we go. Alright, so one of the main problems you run into with taking this trigger apart is that little E-clip right there, or the Jesus clip as they're known. So the easiest way to get these off is to just take a flathead screwdriver and put it in a little spot and push, and usually, oh, there it goes. Be careful it doesn't go flying because they're tiny and easy to miss. But when you're ready to put it back on, just drop it back on there and push it with the screwdriver until it slips onto there. So I'll put that someplace I won't lose it, and take the trigger out and get that all disassembled. Alright, so I've got all my bits in a canister, and the first thing that you need to do is to unscrew this trigger spring here, and then double check that your screw will thread into here, the hole that used to have the spring in it. So the big thing that it looks like to me, this set screw here looks like it's an over travel to prevent when you pull the trigger for it to keep going. So this needs to be set a lot lower than that. Like that's about good, I'd reckon, so that it doesn't bump and prevent you from pulling the trigger. So I'm going to cut this off about here so I can have some adjustment afterwards. And then I'll go take it over to the bench and put it in the vise and cut it with the hacksaw. One thing that I do when I cut screws or bolts or whatever, so you don't damage the threads if you need the rest of the bolt, put a piece of leather like this around it before you clamp it in, and it holds it just fine, secure, and you won't mess up your threads. So I'll go do that and cut it off there. So upon further examination, I just realized that this screw right here is actually for the safety, not for over travel. It's what blocks the trigger from being pulled. So I would definitely not mess with that at all, and I'm not going to. So I cut the spring down a little bit, and in half an inch or so, and we'll see how this works out weight-wise. I'm going to thread this on here. And I found that after you thread it on there, if you give the actual little set screw that you've made a twist in the other direction to kind of pull it into the threads, it does very well. So I'm going to put this in the rifle now, and we'll see what kind of weight we're getting. So I've got the trigger back in the gun, and I just remembered I've got an old fishing scale hanging around, so I'll show you what it's pulling at. And this is going to be hard to get on film because it's hard to do without getting it on film. So here we go. The numbers on the left are pounds. So whoop. Yeah, that didn't even pull the trigger. Alright, give me another shot. Yep, so that was right around 4 pounds. It's been pulling pretty consistently at 4 pounds, and I forgot that I had that, so I'm going to go ahead and do it again with the stock trigger spring in and see what we get off of that. Okay, so here's the factory spring back in there, and once the pounds are on the right, there's 5, I forgot to cock the gun. Nice. Let's try that again. Just over 6 pounds. So we reduced it by 2.5 pounds or so. I think that's pretty good for now. I'm going to do some safety check and make sure that's good and safe. And then I will take it out to range and see how I like that. Maybe we'll lighten it a little bit more. It still seems a little bit heavy to my taste, but it's not bad. Alright, so I just got the trigger put back in, and I'll tell you what, it is loads better. Like I said, it was pulling around 4 pounds now. So it's pretty decent. I may go lighter. It's still a little bit heavy to my taste, but I'm going to take it out and shoot it first before I decide on that. Kind of the pros to doing it this way, it's a little bit more complicated than just snipping a few coils off the factory spring. But the plus side is I still have the factory spring. If this turns out not working, or it's not reliable, or I don't like it, or whatever, I can always throw this factory spring back in there, and it is back to factory configuration. So, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. That's the first part on this rifle done. The trigger is fixed up. It's certainly going to help me shoot a lot better. Stock's coming in the mail soon, and I got to go out and find a scope. So I'll take you along for that, and then the final step is getting some ammo put together. So, thanks for watching. Scope's coming in soon.